For 26 years, the mystery of the unknown woman who was found dead in a cemetery next to a small Christmas tree remained a haunting unsolved case in the annals of Fairfax County Police records. For all these years, it seemed like the 69-year-old Jane Doe would never be identified. Nobody reported her missing. Nobody came to claim her body. So she became as mystifying in death as she was unseen in life. Until now, I want to tell you guys the story of the Christmas Tree Lady. On December 18, 1996, a groundskeeper at Pleasant Valley Memorial Park Cemetery in Annandale, Virginia, happened to stumble upon a woman's body. She was found in the section designated for infant burials, but not near any particular grave. The unidentified woman was found next to a small 8-inch Christmas tree, and since her identity could not be determined, she became known as the Christmas Tree Lady. The woman was described as Caucasian, with red copper hair, standing about 5 feet tall. She was believed to be between the ages of 50 to 70 years old when she passed. The police report says that she had a neat haircut, that she was smartly dressed, and that her pockets contained no ID. Her autopsy report revealed she had alcohol and Valium in her system at the time of death. She was discovered with a plastic bag over her head, along with 2 $50 bills, one for the coroner and one for the cemetery. The woman, who was nicely dressed in a red silk shirt and blue sweater, blue knit pants, and a teal all-weather Eddie Bauer hooded jacket, had spread out a clear plastic sheet and placed the tree on top of it, the Post reported in 2000. She had laid down, turned on a tape player, and began listening to a comedy cassette through a pair of headphones. The woman produced a plastic bag and masking tape from her backpack. With the tape, she secured the bag over her freshly done auburn hair, the newspaper stated. Then she died. The woman's body was still warm when she was found shortly after 9 a.m. that day. There was a note accompanying her body that read, "Deceased by my own hand. Prefer no autopsy. Please order cremation with the funds provided. Thank you, Jane Doe." Investigators suspected the death was a suicide, and the official cause of death was determined to be suffocation. But the trail of evidence went cold after that point. Without any positive identification, police authorities had no way to proceed with resolving the case. Detectives from the Fairfax County Police Department Cold Case Squad spent years tracking down clues about the woman known only as the Christmas Tree Lady. They compared her physical description to numerous missing persons cases in the National Capital Region, but were unable to find a match. In 2000, with the help from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a colorized sketch of the woman was produced in hopes that it might be recognized by her friends or family, but the sketch did not produce any leads to her identity. Meanwhile, her death became an ongoing issue among true crime groups on the internet. Something about this lonely, mysterious woman's death in a cemetery lingered in the imagination of all who came across this story. But for a long time, it looked like the case would become one of those perplexing incidents from the past that nobody can explain, until recently. Because even the police hadn't given up on the Christmas Tree Lady just yet. With all leads exhausted, Fairfax County Police Department eventually engaged a private DNA laboratory called Othram, intending to use advanced DNA testing to identify this woman or to connect her case to a close relative. In January 2022, Fairfax Police Department detectives sent physical evidence to Othram. Othram scientists were able to use forensic-grade genome sequencing to develop a comprehensive genealogical profile for the unknown woman. Othram scientists were experts in the recovery, enrichment, and analysis of human DNA from trace quantities of degraded or contaminated materials. Othram worked with forensic genetic genealogist Carla Davis to execute the genealogical research and perform the research necessary to produce investigative leads. The costs associated with this casework were funded by a DNA Solves crowdfund and a substantial contribution from an anonymous donor. In May 2022, investigative leads were returned to the detectives, and this led to a connection with one suspected family member of the unknown woman. From there, the investigation led to additional family connections across the country. A DNA sample from a close relative confirmed a match, and this confirmation was further corroborated by conversations with long-lost siblings. Finally, the woman was known for a quarter of a century as only the Christmas Tree Lady, was determined to be Joyce Marilyn Meyer Sommers, originally from Davenport, Iowa. The Christmas Tree Lady turned out to be a woman called Joyce Marilyn Meyer Sommers, originally from Davenport, Iowa. She was the eldest of 5 children, born to Arthur and Margaret Meyer according to DNA analysis and her family. She was 69 when her body was found, and her family has no idea or why she decided to end her life in Annandale, Virginia, just before Christmas. The way she planned it, she was careful, said her sister Annette Meyer Clow, one of 2 remaining immediate family members. She was very careful. We couldn't find her. Family members believe Meyer may have moved to the Virginia area sometime after the mid-1980s. At the time of her death, Meyer was not reported missing and did not have family in the immediate area. Although she was not reported missing, her family had spent years looking for her and even hired a private detective. Additionally, it appears that Joyce did not have any children, so she had nobody in her life to even report her going missing. In May, when Othram got a possible hit, they realized that an 88-year-old man in Virginia Beach, David Meyer, could be the Christmas Tree Lady's brother. Fairfax homicide detectives drove to Virginia Beach, Detective Melissa Wallace said, and showed him the woman's inking. But he couldn't confirm it was his sister because he hadn't seen her in at least 50 years, Wallace said. The woman had long distanced herself from her family. The man's family referred detectives to a sister who lived outside Phoenix, Clow. Clow told investigators that the color drawing was 1,000% like her older sister, Joyce Meyer Sommers. Detectives submitted DNA from Clow, and Othram analyst Carla Davis confirmed that the woman, who had not yet been identified since 1996, was Sommers. I was shocked, just stunned, Clow said. The family had been looking for her. They were still looking for her a year after her death. I'm relieved to know nothing terrible happened to her. It sounds like something she had been planning for a long time. In an interview, Clow shared what the family knew about the sister, who essentially disappeared in the 1980s. She said Joyce Marilyn Meyer was born in July 1927, the eldest of 3 girls and 2 boys, and raised on a farm outside of Davenport, Iowa. Sommers attended Iowa State University and then moved to Los Angeles, where she got a job at 17 magazine and lived with an aunt. She was very creative and very smart. She was artistic, Clow said. Sommers then left 17 to teach 2nd grade at a Catholic school in Los Angeles. It was difficult, Clow said of her sister's life as a teacher in the 1950s. She had 60 2nd graders and no educational background. She was very meticulous and stayed up into the early hours planning classes. It was around this time, Clow said, that Sommers began seeing a psychiatrist. Psychoanalysis back then was all about blaming the family, blaming the mother. It kind of alienated her from the family. Clow said her sister was first married around 1959 and later divorced. Sometime in the 1960s, Clow said, her mother traveled to California for a 24-hour confrontation session with Sommers, during which Sommers accused the mother of being a terrible parent. It was just awful, Clow said. It broke my mother's heart. Clow continued to write letters to her older sister, but Sommers rarely revealed much when she replied. Sommers moved to Seattle and married James E. Sommers, but did not tell her family about the event. Police found a divorce certificate showing that Joyce and James Sommers divorced in 1977 and had no children. Sommers then moved to Tucson. She had a trailer at a trailer park, Clow said. She wasn't very happy in that situation. In the 1980s, her siblings visited Sommers in Tucson, where she asked the family to build her a home, Clow said. The family couldn't do that, and Sommers wasn't happy, Clow said. After that visit, she vanished from the face of the earth, Clow said. Her family never heard from her again. The siblings tried to track her down in the early 1990s, Clow said. Her late brother, Larry Meyer, traveled to the trailer in Tucson, but it had been abandoned. In a refrigerator in the trailer, the brother found 4 copies of a book called The Target Child, which Sommers appeared to have written and self-published about an allegedly traumatic childhood. But her surviving siblings dispute this. Clow said she doesn't believe her parents were abusive or that any of her siblings suffered growing up. In the early 1990s, Larry Meyer and Clow's ex-husband hired a private investigator to try and find Sommers. "We suspected she was in a cult somewhere," Clow said. She said efforts to locate her sister had been extensive, and there was some evidence that Sommers had moved to the East Coast, but that they couldn't find her anywhere. The case was cold. Wallace said police databases show that Sommers lived in Northern Virginia for some time in 1996, possibly in Alexandria. A LexisNexis database, compiling public records, revealed an address for Sommers in downtown Washington, a townhouse on Massachusetts Avenue, which has now been integrated into another building. And then Sommers somehow chose the cemetery at the Little River Turnpike in Annandale, in a section nearby where babies and children were buried, as the site of her suicide. Detectives found no connection between the Sommers and any of the graves, and Clow said she believed her sister had no children, despite a large scar on her abdomen, which investigators thought may have been from a cesarean birth. Clow even theorized that her sister chose the children's section of the cemetery as a symbolic nod to her belief that children can be permanently harmed by their parents. But where Sommers spent the last decade of her life, and what she did during that time, and why she decided to take her own life, are still unknown. "I always had an expectation that somehow we would find a way to identify her," said retired Fairfax homicide detective Steve Malefsky. "I was excited to learn that someone's family would find out what happened to her." He said detectives always thought she was from out of the area. Malefsky noted that Fairfax has some other unidentified bodies, and I think it makes sense to identify these people. In recent years, genetic genealogy has evolved into a law enforcement tool in which forensic analysis attempts to match an individual's DNA profile to another similar DNA pattern and search the family tree for connections. In January, Othram Incorporated, a Houston area laboratory that successfully identified remains as early as the 1960s, took on the Christmas Tree Lady. Othram and other genetic genealogists use open public databases of DNA profiles to look for matches to unidentified remains, a process criticized by some as an invasion of privacy. "We hope it doesn't go down," said Detective John Long of the Fairfax investigation team. "It's a really great tool to be able to solve some of these cold cases when we can't do it in any other way." Othram, which built its lab specifically to use genome sequencing to aid law enforcement, has helped solve several hundred cases at the local, state, and federal levels, said Chief Development Officer Kristen Middleman, many of which were unsolved. Decades of cases were previously considered unsolvable by all other technologies. There is no better feeling than knowing that you play a key role in identifying victims and perpetrators, providing answers for families, and promoting justice, she went on to say. In an agency press release, Major Ed O'Connell, Bureau Commander, Major Crimes, Cyber and Forensics at the Fairfax Police Department said, "After decades of wondering what happened to their loved one, Joyce's family is finally at peace thanks to the dedicated work of several generations of FCPD detectives, anonymous donors, and Othram. Our detectives have never stopped working for Joyce and her family. Advances in technology will continue to help close cases and provide answers to victims' families." Virginia still has 222 active, long-term unidentified cases statewide, and created a body last year specifically to investigate them. According to Arqui Williams of the State Coroner's Office, nationwide, the Justice Department's National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, or NAMUS, aims to match missing person cases with unidentified bodies or skeletons, and about 8,200 unidentified persons are on the database. But thanks to the persistence of the Fairfax County Police Department and recent developments in the field of forensic genealogical DNA sequencing, there is one less Jane Doe on the records. As of July 2022, the Christmas Tree Lady's story has finally been told. Though her life remains very much an enigma, she has not been ignored after her death. Finally, Joyce Sommers' family has the closure they need, and the mystery of one of the strangest Christmas cases of all time has been solved. So what do you think about this case? Let us know in the comments section, and like, share, and subscribe as we travel through the world of unsolved mysteries and true crime cold cases. Stay safe, friends. Until next time.